Welcome back everybody, Dan here, and today I'm going to be taking a brief look or a small little review of the product that you see here in front of me. This is a sim racing hardware dashboard. Now, I didn't realize how cool this thing was or how useful it was until I actually picked this one up and started using it. I bought this one. This is not a sponsored video. I picked this up with my own money, and I bought it specifically to use with simulations such as Euro Truck Simulator, American Truck Simulator, things that I knew required a lot of buttons. And you know, sims that I didn't want to necessarily make use of using the keyboard, because it's not always that easy to use a keyboard to map buttons to if you can't really get it close to you and things like that. And also it's not as immersive as using something like this. This is way more immersive. So I went and started doing some research, and this is the one I ended up purchasing. And again, this is not a sponsored video. I'm giving you my honest opinion on what I feel about this because I paid for it with my own money like I do most of my items. So anyways, this can be found on Sim Racing Hardware. If you're not familiar with who those guys are, they're sim racers at heart. It was a group of guys that started out sim racing and decided to start a company making products from very small to very large, dealing with sim rigs and anything dealing with sim racing. You can find things on their website as small as a simple button box, all the way on up to very, very extravagant sim rigs ready to go with motion and all that. So they've been around sim racing a while. They know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. So let's talk about this item in specific. This is going to be their basic dashboard. This is kind of their one-size-fits-all solution, and you can hop right online, you can pick this up, and you just tell them basically what wheel you have or what wheelbase you have, and there's different versions specific to each wheelbase that's available. For example, this one is mounted obviously to my TSPC Racer, but they have a version for all models of Thrustmaster, all the Fanatic lineup, and several direct drives as well. So you can get this exact setup for pretty much any mainstream wheelbase on the market. The only thing that will change from item to item is just basically the bolt pattern where you actually bolt it to the wheelbase. As you can see, this is where mine is. And that will change slightly depending on what you're mounting it to, but it's very crucial that you tell them what wheelbase you actually are mounting it to so that they'll send you the correct one. So let's start off by talking about what I really, really like about this, because as a whole, I really have enjoyed using this, and it is extremely well built, and it's a very solid piece of kit, and I really, really like it. So let's just start talking about there. Let's talk about what you actually get when you purchase this. Basically, this wheelbase is two separate button boxes. They are connected by this very substantial and thick piece of what I believe is aluminum, and it's got an interesting finish to it. It's almost a brushed finish, but it's black. So I'm pretty sure that it is aluminum, maybe some type of metal, but it's very solid, and it is clearly cut out of some kind of CNC machine, and you're not going to mess this thing up. It is really, really solid. I mean, it is very thick and you're not going to mess it up. But basically, it is the mount that holds both of these individual button boxes, and it also mounts it to your wheelbase. So what you get in these button boxes, you're going to get 9 standard buttons, what I call standard buttons, like the one click. Obviously, you can see here, guys, they're all different colors and things like that, and one is a slightly different shape, that one there. But they're still basically going to be the standard buttons that you map one item to, you know, maybe to turn on your windshield wipers or something like that. There's 9 of those, which I find those are the most useful. You're going to get 4 3-way switches here. So there's an up and a down, and then there's actually a press. So that's what I like to call a 3-way switch. And then you're going to get 3 safety switches, which is basically these. These are not the most useful. I will talk about that in a little while, but you know, you do get them. They look pretty cool. They kind of give it a race car-esque look, which is pretty neat. And then you get 3 rotary encoders down here. So these are gonna, you know, basically if you need to dial something into a very specific point, such as traction control, your braking pressure, your braking bias, things like that, these are going to be very specific, and they are very, very useful. So that's what you get in the way of buttons, guys. And I think overall, like I said, I didn't realize how useful it was going to be, but I am able to map many, many things to this on many different sims that I didn't even realize I was going to be able to utilize. So I'm very, very pleased with it. I want to talk about the build quality, touch on that really, really quickly. This thing was obviously put together by an individual who cares about how something looks and cares about how exact something is put together. I cannot find any issues with this at all. Everything lines up perfectly. All the switches are in there good. There's no lines that don't line up correct. I mean, it's very minor things if it was an issue, but you're not going to find it here. Most things in sim racing, they go through quality control, and by the time they get to you, you're still going to find issues with it. That's not the case with this. This, out of everything I have for sim racing, this is probably the best built item I have. It is built solid. There are absolutely no issues. And let's talk about immersion for a moment here. You can just go out and buy some pretty cheap button boxes on eBay. I mean, you can get a button box for probably 30 bucks all the way up to over $100, and they're gonna work similar to each other. But what you don't get with those that you get with these is an extra immersion, because this is making you feel more like you're actually in a car, because not only do you have all these buttons, but they're kind of surrounding you and they feel like a dash, which I think adds to the immersion. It really has for me. It definitely improves the way the wheelbases look, because the wheelbases most of the time are very, very plain and generic, and adding this surround to it has definitely helped out and improved the immersion. So I really, really like that. Let's talk about, for a minute, getting it ready to go. And actually, that's going to be a very short topic, because basically it is plug and play. These are just button boxes that are hanging from this substantial piece of metal here. And so they just use a USB connection that just plugs right into your PC. Now that I'm talking about that, I will mention that this is only compatible with a PC. You're not going to be able to get this to work with an Xbox, because this works as a simple controller plugged in via USB to the PC, and you can map anything you want. The PC picks it up very quickly after you plug it in, and it's, like I said, it's very, very plug and play. There's no effort at all to this. Works very, very well. And let's talk about the feel of the buttons. I guess this is kind of a quality thing too that I could have mentioned earlier, but I wanted to kind of give it its own specific topic here. And the feel of the buttons, man, they are really, really good. They're very positive. These switches have a very positive click. Even the 3-way click is nice. The standard buttons have a nice, solid, positive feel to them. I mean, they're very, very nice, very tactile. I have no complaints. And all around, the build quality of this thing is absolutely amazing. I mean, I have no issues with it. I highly, highly recommend it. Let's talk about the price though, because I think I was kind of putting the price down towards the end of the things that I like about it, because I'm kind of unsure. It's a mixed bag as far as the price goes. So you can pick this thing up for 249 euros, which is roughly the equivalent of 284 US dollars plus shipping. So if you're getting it shipped over here to the States, it's a pretty substantial amount of money to get it here, and then it takes a few weeks to get it. It took me about 2 weeks to get it. I think it's priced well, it's priced okay, but it's not priced as good as it could because like I said earlier, you can pick up 2 button boxes for very, very cheap. They're not going to be the quality of this. Just don't get me wrong on them. They're not going to be as high quality as this, but they will serve the same purpose. You can still map buttons to them, but then you're going to have to deal with where you mount them and all that extracurricular stuff that you may not want to mess with. So I think the price is just like a neutral point. I don't think it's as cheap as it could be, but I don't think it's astronomical where it's just ridiculous. Obviously, I purchased one, so I didn't think it was that bad. But overall, I think the price kind of sits right in a neutral position where it's priced in line with some other things. Let's talk about a few things that not necessarily things that I dislike, but things that I think could be addressed. And a lot of these are very minor complaints that are actually a personal preference. But I wanted to mention them just in case you guys were curious. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the angled design of the back plate here. So as you can see, it's flat across here where your wheel would be, and here it takes a turn and it's a very slight angle, but it is angled. I understand what they were going for. They're going for a similar experience to what you see with a curved monitor. No matter which way, no matter what direction you're looking, the buttons are basically going to be the same distance away from you, and it kind of feels like it surrounds you. And in a way, that is pretty cool. The problem with that is the larger diameter rim you're using with this, and I use a multitude of rims, the Evo 599 Alcantara, I use a large wood wheel, many rims. The larger diameter that wheel is, the closer it gets to the buttons. And I find with some of the wheels, even the 599 Evo, which is not the biggest wheel you could get, I feel that my fingers kind of brush against, especially when that is up. I hit that a lot. But even so, just these toggle switches, I feel like my fingers kind of brush against them. And that's because instead of it just being straight across, it kind of angles to you. Like I said, I understand why they did that, but I think it would be a better design just to be straight across, if you know what I mean. That way, no matter how large of a rim you're using, you're not going to have any issues with that. The second thing, which again is a minor complaint, guys, is while these safety switches are cool, I don't find myself using them that much. And it's just because of a couple reasons. One, they're loud and they're just more of a pain to use. You know, I don't know. I just don't use them that much. A preference for me, I would have preferred to maybe have one of these and maybe another couple of standard buttons, because the standard buttons are what you're going to mount, what you're going to map most things to. So for me, just a preference thing, I would have maybe been okay with having maybe one of these safety switches for ignition or fuel or something like that, and probably been happy with a couple of standard buttons or even a couple more switches like this. But I think 3 may be too much. I think they were going for a design and a certain look rather than a certain use, because these, it may be just a little bit overkill with 3 safety switches over here. Again, a very minor complaint. And then the last thing that is probably my main complaint, still a minor complaint, is that even though this is one item that you purchase, there is basically, like I've said earlier, 2 button boxes here. And so because there are 2 separate button boxes, it actually requires 2 USB cables, one plugged in here and one plugged in here. You have to run, and you know, you have to figure out a place to put 2 wires first of all and run them down your rig to the PC. And speaking of the PC, you have to utilize 2 USB ports. And most of us who are in the sim racing community know that USB ports are at a prime because we have a lot of stuff plugged in. So I really would have loved to have seen them somehow incorporate these 2 button boxes together, not necessarily touching, but maybe having the wiring come out, connect into one so that we can run one USB for this entire piece of kit here to the PC and utilize one less USB. But again, that's a minor complaint. So overall, guys, do I recommend this? I highly recommend this. It can be used on any wheel. Like I said, they have one for any wheel. It is amazing. I was extremely surprised how much I've utilized it in other titles. I don't map many buttons. I'm a casual sim racer, so I don't really map a lot of stuff. But now that I have this, I find myself going into the menus and mapping brake biases and things like that, just because I have them on order and I don't have to use a keyboard. This is a lot better. Yeah, so I highly recommend this, guys. I wish maybe the price was a little bit cheaper, and I wish there was maybe some other options with the buttons here. Now, that being said, you can go on their website and you can custom order a dashboard to look and feel exactly like you want. The thing is, the price starts to get up higher and higher and higher the more things you change. And this is definitely going to be the budget entry. This is going to be the item that's going to be like a one-size-fits-all, the cheapest way to get in without customizing anything. But you can go on their website, pay a little more money, and customize these things the way you want. But again, I think this is already right on the limit of price. So if you start to customize it and it gets more expensive, I think it may be a little bit, at least for me, a little bit out of the realm of you know, a correct price. So that's why I went with the basic model here. Plus, if you specifically order something, you know, it's going to take a longer time to get to you. Just the general things that we run into in the sim racing world. But again, guys, I highly recommend this. This is the sim racing dashboard from Sim Racing Hardware. Those guys over there know what they're doing. They make an incredibly quality product. And yeah, they've got stuff for everybody across the board. And again, I'll mention one more time, this is not a sponsored video. I purchased this with my own money. So this is legitimately how I feel about this product. If you're looking for some additional buttons, this is definitely a good way to go. I'll put the link in the description to their website. Go check them out. See if they have anything to offer for you. I do not think you will be disappointed based on the quality of what I have received from them. So that's going to be it here, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more videos like this, sim racing videos, product reviews, unboxings, various things we have coming, remember to subscribe if you are not and click that notification bell. As always, guys, I appreciate you hanging in here with me and watching these videos, and I will talk to you in the next video. We'll see you later.